Carl and Damon here from Games, Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And they made what into a movie. Time to return to the Alone in the Dark world. I was about to say franchise, but 2 movies does not make a franchise. I suppose the game is a franchise. No, I suppose it's a franchise because you've got the games, you've got the movies, and you've got other media.
Yeah.
So it is a franchise, but we are returning to the movie side of things. Of course, we have covered the original Alone in the Dark movie adaptation, one of the worst adaptions and movies ever made. No question about it. It's a shocker and bad, not just because it doesn't understand what Alone in the Dark is, but because it's just a terrible movie with terrible acting, with terrible visuals, with terrible story. It was a terrible, terrible movie. Along comes Alone in the Dark 2. Goes, right, let's try this again. Basically, I don't know why they call it Alone in the Dark 2.
Nothing.
It is no connection. It's not related. It's basically another attempt at making an Alone in the Dark movie. So maybe call it something like Alone in the Dark Rebirth. Alone in the Dark, The Witch. Anything would make more sense.
Yep.
It's a 2008 horror film directed by Peter Shearer and Michael Rowisk and starring Rick Yoon, Rachel Spector and Lance Henriksen. Don't get excited about that last name. This is not his best work by any stretch. It is a standalone sequel, as I said, to Uwe Boll's 2005 film Alone in the Dark, featuring an entirely new cast and a story that is unrelated to the original film. So, quick rundown of the cast, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we actually feel about it before we get into the plot. Rick Yoon as Edward Carnby. Rick Yoon was cast because you might wonder, well, why didn't they at least try to bring back Christian Slater, right? There's no reason why they couldn't have continued the story, continued the character. It's simple. Christian Slater said no. There you go. He said no. Yeah. There you go. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more complex than that.
After the failure of the first one, probably ruined his career.
His career was on life support.
Exactly,
it's by that point anyway. Rachel Spector as Natalie, Lance Henriksen as Abner Lundberg, Bill Moseley as Dexter, Ralph Moller as Boyle, Danny Trejo as Perry, Zach Ward as Xavier, Natasha Moulty as Turner, Jason Connery as Parker, Michael Paré as Wilson, PJ Souls as Martha, Brooklyn Sudano as Sinclair, Alison Lang as Elizabeth Dexter / Witch, and Peter Looney as Ward Dexter. Now you might think, God, there's actually some good names there. I just say Lance Henriksen, Bill Moseley, Danny Trejo, Zach Ward, Michael Paré, PJ Souls. These are some names. It's the story. It's the characters and the story. Nobody has a good turn here. In fact, one of my favourite actors in the horror world, Bill Moseley, I think is possibly the worst thing about this film. I'll get into it each time he pops up.
Yeah.
And particularly a line delivery that I was so shocked at that I wrote it down because I was like, he did not just say that and how he said it. It's the script. It's a writing issue. It's a character issue. This is a fucking mess. And it is a mess that gets messier as it goes on. From character motivations to behaviours of the villain to what the story is mental. It is generally hard to understand.
It is. Yeah.
To keep up and go, wait, what? Why does this matter? What's the point of the dagger? What can that witch do? What's this part of it?
That's what
insane.
I had to keep pausing it and going back because I swear I was watching different films.
I can't believe how long my notes were in the end because I had to keep. Normally, my notes are the longest at the start because that's when all the plot shit's dropped and the character shit, and I have to add all that, and then after that's established, I have to keep re-establishing shit as I go along. So it should come as no surprise. I think this is an absolutely shocker of a movie. It is one of the worst video game movie adaptations again. However, it is marginally better than the original in my opinion.
You think so?
I do, for one reason. This at least seems to understand what it's supposed to be, which is an Alone in the Dark movie adaptation. It is more true to elements from the game than the first was. The first did nothing. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. This one has elements of that. It's like, okay, Alone in the Dark is witchcraft and darkness and all this. And I like the idea of having a standalone story. with the characters of Alone in the that's very Alone in the Dark.
I get that, yeah, but just the fact that I couldn't even understand the story, because the fact that it was just constantly. It felt like when all the cast were in the room together, they were all talking about different things.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It just didn't make sense to me. Like the bit where he gets stabbed and they're all asking the same question, but no one's answering the answer. It was just over and over and over again.
Well put. It is a really well way to put it. I will also add to that, my God, that they like to talk in this film. I am saying it's better than the original, yeah? But it's marginal.
Yeah,
it is not by much. This is nothing to be impressed by. If you watched it, and you could watch it without having seen the original, you'll hate it. I'm just saying, put the two side by side and said to me, you have no choice, Carl, but to watch one again. I am likely going to choose the second one.
I would choose the second one only because I can't remember the first one, because it feels like
CGI monster, guns, bang,
Like,
Christian Slayer, yes, Tara Reid as well.
Yeah.
I suppose you could argue at least the first one you can laugh at because of it. No, it's so boring. Yeah. Anyway, we are going to get into it as we begin overlooking New York City. Present day, as we cut between city shots, the cast list and people running through trees. They are in Central Park. Night has fallen and one of them is injured. 2 men, 1 woman, one of the dudes is hurt, laying down, and we see that he has some sort of infection under his skin. So it's a frantic start, and I'm like, okay, cool. He's about to give up, but the other man insists they can make it if they hold out in a nearby toilet. We then get a POV from something moving through the trees. You know that kind of shot. It's Evil Dead-esque, the classic camera, but not as cool or as scary, and more sharp and cut quickly.
Just the fact that they think they can hide in a nearby toilet, in the park, it just makes no sense to me.
Well, it makes no sense because of what we know later on. Like, at the time, we don't know if they're just hiding from something that doesn't have radar or anything like that, you know. But what we know later on, it's like, it doesn't really work that way. Before they move to the toilet, though, the man hurt gives the other something wrapped in a cloth and tells them it's up to him to protect it. First point of confusion, because I felt like at the time, well, that's self-explanatory. That thing is going to be super, super important to the plot, right? And it is, but it's also not. But we'll get more into that. In the toilet, though, some dude is taking some coke and listening to music on his boombox. This is Zach Ward, who is equally one of my favourite things to see in a cast list, and also one of my least favourite things to see in a cast list. If I see Zach Ward's name, and I really like him, I go, this could be fun. But I also, when I see Zach Ward in anything related to video game movie adaptions or Yui Ball movies, now I know this isn't a Yui Ball movie, but he is listed as a producer, and it is a sequel to Alone in the Dark. And I haven't quite forgiven either, because we haven't done it yet, but Zach Ward is the star of a video game movie adaptation by Yui Ball called Postal. And I fucking hate Postal.
Lovely.
And we haven't quite got there yet, you know?
So, I heard that Yui Ball was offered the idea to do this film and he turned it down.
I think he was doing something else. I think that was it. I think he might have been doing something else. I think he might have been... But then who said that? Because Yui Ball, if he said that, he is full of shit, Damon.
I know.
You know what I mean? But this toilet is a grotty place, made all the worse with the lights flickering. He hears the 3 approaching, so hides in a cubicle as they come in. The three people get ready to defend themselves, and the man, still able to stand, brandishes a shotgun and then checks each cubicle. But for some reason, stops before he gets to the last one, which is where, of course, Zach Ward's characters are hiding out. Why did he stop? He kicks every door, but then... And I actually went back because I was like, he must hear something. It must be like... Because I would have him kick, and then the woman go... Like, stop doing that. We need to prepare defences. And he's like, fuck it, and carries on.
Exactly.
So, I mean, but he just stops. And it's like, well, that's convenient, isn't it? The storm is really picking up outside as we see what was in the cloth. A broken knife. He unscrews the hilt, removes a small jar, and is told to burn it by the hurt man. All of this while something is apparently getting closer, according to some sort of tracker the woman has, because nothing's so supernatural like having a bit of electronic equipment that can track it. Now, I'm not going to be too hard on this because Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah.
They've got equipment that can track ghosts and shit like that, or alert you. I'm not going to be too hard at Alone in the Dark 2 for having it. It's a fantasy world, right? So, you know what I mean? We're not doing realism here. The man smashes the vial and burns the liquid inside before hiding the knife in a drain, which is basically around the back of a toilet, which is seen by the man hiding in the next cubicle because it's low down. She is coming, apparently. And the door starts to glow and the group starts shooting. We then see some sort of dark smoke, but end up focusing on a hiding man as bullets rain down around him. We hear the sound of people being killed, it would seem, before the smoke comes through the gaps of the cubicle and seems to go for the hiding man. And I've got to say, I think this is a strong introduction. I think, I think it sets things up really cool. It's a cool location. We set up this monstrous being. We set up this mysterious knife. We have 3 people that are clearly involved in some way and then taken out. Like, that aspect. It's frantic. It's fast. I think it's a pretty good introduction.
Yeah, but they blew the entire budget on the first scene.
You reckon?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a frantic start. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's probably a fair bit of money spent because of the lighting and the bullets.
But did you notice how they suddenly had guns and then they didn't have guns and they had guns again and they suddenly didn't have guns?
I just presumed they had. I didn't. No, I didn't.
Yeah, so I went back a few times. One scene, no guns in the hand. Next scene, guns in the hand. No guns.
But it's quick cuts, so I think you could be a bit fair here.
Yeah, I suppose there might be minutes in between, I suppose, yeah. So
there are some parts, though, because it's so fast done, that it's very hard to understand what's happening. And later on, it will reference things from this section, and if you'll be a bit confused about it. So I'm actually going to go back and mention something that happens here. So there's a weird point I couldn't quite understand until later. The bloke that's hurt sort of puts a bit of paper there... and then puts a knife to it, like that, right? And I was like, what the fuck's he doing? And I thought, he must be some sort of, like, magical wound cleaning thing or something like that. Didn't think much of it, so I didn't add it to my notes. That's quite important.
There's a lot which, again, I like in the film that happens in this film and never gets explained.
Well, this is brought back later on as an important thing. I'll cover it more in depth when we get to that section, but my God, I'll, make that clearer if you're going to use it later on in your fucking movie. Anyway, cut to daytime in the city, 3 days later, where we follow a man as he goes to a sketchy area, makes a phone call. This is the man. Just look, it's like an alleyway, and there's graffiti in the wall. It's supposed to be like, oh, look at this. This is the man from the cubicle, and he doesn't look very well. It's like he might be infected with something. He's contacting Edward Carnby, who is already waiting for him. This man, now bear in mind, annoyingly at this point, we don't know his name. So I'm going to have to say it because I hate having to do this.
Yeah,
we learn later his name is Xavier. He got Edward's contact details and was paying him to get access to the bodies of the 3 killed in the toilets. Edward queries this and demands to know about the dagger, which causes Xavier pain. What's going on? What the fuck is going on? Like, this just feels like, again, have I missed a part?
That's why.
How did we get to this? I don't mind that Edward's an established character, so to speak. Like, we don't need his backstory around supernatural stuff and all that aspect and so on.
Yeah.
This implies that he's already got dealings within the world. But as the film's going to go on, it's going to imply more that he's an absolute idiot who knows nothing. And he just accidentally walked into this situation. What is going on? Cut to a hospital and the pair are sneaking into the morgue. But Edward briefly notices a woman watching them before she disappears. What? What? And this woman will come back later. But why was she there? How was she there? How would she know? How did she vanish? Why did he not think anything? Oh, there was a woman watching me, and now she's not. She saw me. I would be like, oh shit, she must work for the hospital. That would be my thought.
You'd think we're about half an hour, 45 minutes in this film. We're not. This is about 10 minutes in.
It's 10, 15 at most. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Inside, we see Edward is able to get the keys from the absent security by leaving some money behind. So I worked out from now, there must be a deal there.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't quite follow why. Why is Edward paying the security to get access to the bodies for Xavier? Now, presumably Xavier gave him more money and it balances out. But who was Edward then? What is he doing? Exactly, is he just some scummy guy who, it's really poorly done.
Why does he want to see the bodies for? Explain that. There's been no explaining what if he's say...
Yeah, have Edward say to him in the alleyway, why do you want to see these bodies? Do you know what I mean? Something like that. Anyway, he leads Xavier into the morgue as we see a security officer doing some rounds. Inside, they find the bodies, and Xavier pulls back the sheet on the woman, showing deep slashes over her body. He acknowledges her hand that shows she has it too. This film is still trying to be super, super we're not going to tell you much. He asks Edward if he's seen it before, explaining that the line spread through the body and something tries to control you. Okay. Edward notes the infection's reaction to light. Okay, that's very Alone in the Dark.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, so.
Xavier starts to cough now before falling to the floor, convulsing and spitting up blood. He shows Edward a deep wound on his hand, saying it happened when he touched the dagger. Edward explains that the dagger is real before Xavier gives it to him. And Edward notes that when he brings the dagger closer to the dead body, it seems to move. None of this is relevant.
Nope.
None of this makes... Right. I thought, okay, cool, so that dagger maybe reanimates the dead into sort of zombie-like creatures.
Yep.
That's what we're going to do there. Nope. Irrelevant what that dagger can do in relation to this. Why it's now a normal dagger and not broken, just don't worry about that.
Been magically fixed.
Don't worry about that. Later in the movie, I will establish by my own working out how that seems to be the case. Which is basically, after it's stabbed into someone, it breaks off. And then when that person's killed, it regenerates to be stabbed again.
Lies, man. The sword that was broken should be remade, man. Lord of the Rings. No.
All right. No, I didn't get your reference. I'm like, wait, what was your reference? Immediately I was... All right. Yeah, no, I know it now. I know it now, but yeah, I didn't... Yeah, so that's what established there. But now we get all this info dump from Xavier, who decides to just spill the beans to Carnaby, Edward. But again, all I'm thinking is, oh, so this isn't a knowledgeable Edward. He's just looked into it. But then I'm like, why does he know about the dagger?
Exactly.
Why is he interested in the dagger? What does this have to do with anything?
Again, it feels like we've missed a good 10, 15 minutes of this film.
Well, it feels like we could have explained this
some
better.
backstory,
You know? And I'm like, okay, so the smoke didn't kill Xavier, but I thought the infection has to come from the knife. So what did the smoke do to Xavier in the toilet? Did it compel him to go pick the knife up and then cut himself? Did he pick the knife up with his fucking blade? You know, it's just weird. Immediately, I'm like, okay, I'm not following along. I'm struggling here, but I'll go. I'm willing to always be fair, and I'm like, okay, let's give the movie a chance to explain itself as it goes on. Xavier then explains how it's in his head, and if you don't do what she says, she comes for you. And I'm like, who? And apparently, it's a witch, the owner of the dagger. Her name being mentioned seems to bring her here as we see smoke now coming down the hallway. Get used to this sketchy motivations and abilities of this witch. Because you will note here that she seems to be able to just, because she's smoke, get in between gaps and doors and stuff like that. She's smoke, right?
Well, yeah.
Explain that at the end of the movie to me, please. But why her name being mentioned, or I guess proximity to Xavier, the dagger. But he had the dagger all along. Why was she, like, but also... What do you mean if she don't do what if she's in your head and you don't do what she says, she comes for you? But if she can control you, you'll be doing what she says no matter what.
She'll be forcing you to do exactly.
Edward asks Xavier about a map, one that was carved into the chest of one of the men. And I was like, oh, that's what he was doing.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait, how? How do you put a bit of paper there, which has a map on it, and somehow carve it in? That is... He isn't even able to...
It's not like fucking like a tattoo machine or something.
Like,
it's
that's insane. It's ridiculous. Xavier points the body out, and as Edward tries to trace the map, Xavier says that she is coming. And you're thinking, okay,
it's gonna be a lot of that.
Exciting, right? Oh my god, she's going to come busting through that door, and Edward's going to start doing something magical, and it's going to be insane. Yep. Cut to them walking down the street. And I was like, what the fuck just happened there? Like, you don't even see them leaving.
Nope.
You don't see anything. It's just, she's coming. And you're like, oh, oh. They're walking down the street.
Skipped another whole scene, man.
How do you not do something there?
I'm telling you, they blew the budget at the start of them.
But you've already shown her coming in. No. So why not have a scene where they're running, maybe a bit desperate and trying to slam her doors closed?
Because he obviously did what she said. So she stopped.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was that. Maybe it's like, so I don't like to reference it because I hate it. But whenever I see black smoke that moves and makes that noises and all that, no. The remake of House on Haunted Hill, the 1999 remake with Jeffrey Rush and Famke Janssen and Tay Diggs and all of them. Ali Lata. Is it Ali Lata? No, it is Ali Lata. Yeah, it is Ali Lata. Is a great movie up for 3/4 of it. A really fun, hilarious remake of a classic that then shits the bed by introducing this horrendous smoke monster that ruins everything about the film. So whenever I see Smoke Monster, I just think of that thing going, oh! And then it like
Laughing.
a little bit of light touching it and it going, ah! And that's all I see here. It's just like, and that's basically what we've got basically. Because in theory, light affects the witch, right? Which is why most of the things happen at night, and we'll get to the house stuff with the lights there anyway. Anyway, so now we're in Central Park again. Night has fallen and another storm has picked up. It's one of those films where when a storm happens, you get lightning crashing every 2 seconds. They go back to the toilet and it's not much prettier than before. Edward tells Xavier that Dagger has more power than he knows, and Edward is looking for something and asks Xavier about what was hidden inside it. So Edward knows more about the dagger.
Exactly, I know.
God, film. However, Xavier is talking to someone else in his head, so he turns around and stabs Edward in the side, shouting that he did what she wants. And I just laughed. I was like, Edward Carby's an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know why you've been hanging out with this dude. After a while, I'm going to be like, I'm not hanging out with the dude that says he's got voices in his head and that he might be being controlled by a witch.
Yep.
You, look, thank you. Cheers for the dagger.
See you later.
Bam, bam. Well, see you on the other side. We should note, there's also a brief flash of a woman here, the same one who was watching Edward at the hospital in the trees, looking at a similar tracker that the three at the start had. This is so quick, you'll blink and miss it. I had to go back and go, oh, that's an actual scene.
I didn't even
It's so dush.
I must have missed that bit.
Yeah, just, she's in the trees, the same woman. I only know that because on Amazon Prime, if you pause it, at a certain point, it's called X-ray. And it'll bring up the cast list. And I knew who this character was. And it was only because I paused it. Was like, oh yeah, there it is, same woman.
Well, we'll not be going back to have a look because I'm never watching this again.
This is only, I should point because I never said this. Yeah. This is only my second time watching this film. First. Once before, about 4 or 5 years ago, to review it for the website. And this is the second time, and that will be it.
First and never again.
I hope it'll never be it. I mean, who knows? There might be a reason to have to revisit it. As Edward begins to lose consciousness, her and a group of other men arrive in a toilet wanting the dagger. They have it, but the witch is approaching. The man, who we will later find out is Dexter. Now, I'm going to come back to his name. I'm going to come back to it because it is infuriating. Shoots Xavier and then seems to stop the witch coming. So Xavier's dead and the witch is like, all right, peace.
I can't track you anymore.
Peace. Yeah. Apparently, it's something to do with like how infected you are.
Yeah, it's
how
like,
much.
It's a tracker, isn't it? That's what it is.
Basically, like a tracker, or you know, I mean, that kind of thing. And yeah, well, it is like a tracker because we're going to get a car scene in a moment. They decide to take Edward with them as his wound is fresh and she can't see him yet. Right. We will later now establish why. Why take him? Fuck him. Kill him. Kill him.
That would be the easy answer.
No, they're going to try and explain it as we can use him to do this and do that and all that. But does the risk outweigh the fucking, like, do you know what I mean? Like the positives you could get?
But we'd only have a half an hour movie.
It would not be great. Because it's not a short movie, it's now 40.
I know, yeah.
In the car, the connection to the witch is starting, and Edward starts to have visions of an old man in a different time or place. I thought it was a different time. I thought it was old times, because like it's like a cave and that. Yep. But it's not really. It's like, later we'll learn it's like maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Yep.
Realising he's in trouble, they pull the car over with a woman Natalie calls Dexter Dad. Using a knife, they remove a piece of the black infection from his wound. As you see on Edward's vision, the old man demands to know where the dagger is. Temporarily saved, the group return to the car and drive off with Edward, who has lost consciousness. Get used to Edward sort of lying around for a while.
Yep.
The next morning, they are hiding at a remote house in the woods that Dexter owns, as Edward comes around in bed. We see the infection is beginning to spread across his body as he has the line. So, what do you make of that effect?
I actually quite like the infection. You know, cause I'm a big fan of a TV show called Supernatural, yeah?
Right.
And that sort of infection is in that too, where all the black lines cover your skin, and I love the effect. Not good at Supernatural, obviously, but I think it looks really, really evil and dark, so I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it as well, because it's actually very alone in the dark. I will add that, we'll say it does look fake as shit, though.
Yeah.
It does, particularly when you see his chest. It's quite clear they just, like, laid strips.
Yeah.
And what it is like, imagine a wire, and then you put masking tape over it, and you push it down. That's what it is, and it's just coloured. That's what it looks like to me. But, you know, I don't hate it either. Natalie checks him over while Dexter reveals that he needed Edward to use his visions to identify the locations he sees in them. But Dexter tells him to never look in the mirror in his dreams, as this is how the enemy will find them. And I was just like, wait, what? What the fuck?
That's not how dream works.
No, but like, fine. But like, stop adding new stuff. Let it just be, as the infection spreads, the witch's connection to you becomes stronger, and you light up like a beacon. He even says that term at a point. Yeah. Oh my god, why are you adding a fucking mirror that when you look into, she can see out your eyes or some shit? It's not necessary.
This entire scene with them around him and on the bed, and it just literally, they're all having their own conversations, and no one's answering any questions.
Nope.
It's more. It's like more and more questions have been asked, but nothing's been explained or answered.
A lot is being said here, and nothing makes sense. The big grunt is now introduced. That's Boyle, and here's Edward's captor / guardian. I don't know. Edward wants to go, but Natalie tells him they're doing this to save his life. All right then. Natalie and Dexter discuss the knife. It seems as though the blade dissolves after it's been used, and what is inside is missing. So that's where I established that.
Yep.
Natalie suggests they contact a man named Abner for help with Edward, but Dexter gets angry upon hearing his name. He refuses to let the man be involved, claiming her grandfather made a big mistake getting involved with him. I love how quickly he changes his mind in a bit.
I know.
It's fucking hilarious. And then we get what I think might be the most hilariously dumb moment, because we cut to Boyle, this big hulking man. He often plays this role as well, being dumb enough not only to go out on the veranda to smoke, even though earlier on we saw him happily sitting in that room and smoking. Okay, he wants some fresh air. He leaves his shotgun in the room with Edward.
Literally right next to him.
Next to the bed. And I was like, no way.
You're like the worst henchman ever.
No way. And like, I'm like, okay, he's going to get killed in a minute, right? Because he can't be this dumb. This dude is in this movie until the fucking end. Shocking, because Edward gets up. We see the lines in his chest clearly now. And gets his weapon. Gets the weapon. And I was like, oh my God. What's really annoying now at this point, so I start writing my notes now at this point where I'm just saying things that piss me off. Edward doesn't really acknowledge his infection. Like, I feel like I'm going to get up, see myself in the mirror and be like, oh shit. I might touch, you know what I mean, like that. But it's just like, it doesn't even really exist to him, except he staggers around while visions assault his mind. In his mind, a voice starts to speak to him as the others realise that he is gone and start to look for him. It doesn't take them long to find him, though, as in his visions, Edward approaches a mirror because he's just staggering around outside. Dragged inside the house, they attempt to sedate him, jabbing a syringe into his heart. However, it might be too late as he looks in the mirror and we briefly see the witch's face. So, ooh. At least it means something's going to happen.
Yeah, but don't you think like literally that from when they captured him to in the farmhouse to when he escapes, there's all that happens in the space of about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's a lot that happens.
Yep.
You know, I mean, for me personally, I think there should have been a massive, at least a time frame gap. But it's just like a lot happens in that space at that time.
True, but it also feels like not a lot happens. Like, I know what you're saying. A lot does happen, but it feels like not a lot happens.
Yeah.
Because it's done in a way where people are just standing around and talking.
Well, like you said at the start, this film is too much of a... with the big cast, my first reaction was, okay, half of these are going to die.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
well, particularly there's a couple
of course
that you look at, like the Boyle, he's the only goon that really has a name. The others do too, but you've got a few others there that are like, hello, I'm here, it's just standing in the background.
It's just far too much talking in this film, as you said at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. But we should add that the witch apparently says that she can see him and she knows who he is. So, I'm going to get mad here now. Good. I'm glad she fucking does. Because you know what? I just realised at this point when she said that, I literally was like, I don't know anything about Edward Carnby.
Nope.
This is the star of Alone in the Dark. Not just the goddamn film. The franchise. He is the name. Utilised in different ways, almost always based around being a paranormal investigator. At least the first film opened with Christian Slater going, hi, my name's Edward Carnby, and I'm a paranormal investigator. I wish I was anywhere else but this film, but I've got to tell you this. But at least they did that.
Explain it, yeah.
I realised I know fuck all about Edward Carnby. Tell me one thing about him, actually. Anything about him, though, that you actually know about who he is before the events of this film.
The only thing I could say about it is that he seems to know a hell of a lot about stuff that we don't know about.
No, that's not what I asked.
Oh, okay,
Tell me something you know
about him.
That not what you think you might know, or based off what this film tells you. In this film, what do we know about him before the events? So let's picture it. Before the camera turned up in the alleyway when he's meeting Xavier. Let's say he went to a coffee. Did he go to a coffee shop? Did he go to a Subway? Did he get some McDonald's? Do you know what I mean? What was he doing? Does he like bowling?
If you're new to this franchise, I've never played the game, never watched. This is your first time watching this film. You'd have no idea who the hell this person is.
I would argue you wouldn't even know he was the main character.
Yeah,
I would argue you might think Natalie is the main character because she, I feel, has more of a role in this than he does. It's terrible. And I'm saying it now, they will not establish this at any point in the film. By the end, we'll be just as unclear about who Edward Carnby is as we are now. Absolutely stupid. In the house, they think they were in time and Edward ends up back in bed. Having now changed his mind... Because that's all it took, was Edward to try and escape. That's it. Dexter's like, well, now we need Abner. He tells Natalie to go see him and gives her the dagger. And I was like, oh my God, that took nothing. Nope. Like, even have... Because what annoys me is at this point, he doesn't know that the witch is coming. So I would have... Maybe as Edward's gone back to bed, he laughs and says she's coming. And like, you know, I mean, Dexter's oh shit, we're going to need extra help. That's what you do, right?
That's what a good writer would do, yes.
I can't stress this enough, it's dumb. But it's also boring. I'm bored now. This is just... We spend so much time, not just in this house, in this fucking bedroom. Can we get out of the bedroom?
Talking. Literally, that's all it is talking.
But it's okay, as we're going to a different house now. No. As Natalie drives to another remote house... One that does scream, stay away from it, and approaches the front door. Now, I don't get this either, right? And you're going to help me here, right? As she's approaching, it's got all these, like, rah signs, stay away. So, obviously, I'm expecting not just an angry old man, a dangerous old man who's willing to shoot first and ask questions later. What I'm not expecting to find is a fairly nice old man... married, and apparently helps his neighbours by caring for their cattle and stuff. I'm like, what's with all the signs about keep out then?
It makes absolutely. I mean, what was that film we watched? The werewolf film with the crazy guy had.
Werewolves Within.
Yeah. So that guy there.
Yeah, the big hulking beast of a man. Yeah.
So at least he was grabbing him and throwing him around. You know?
I just feel like
that's what you expect.
Even if he lived alone and he was like, as she got to the door, he's like cocking his shotgun. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
2 seconds to get off my porch.
Yeah, like that kind of shit would make more sense. But here he's just like, oh, he's just a normal dude, really. Anyway, she approaches the front door, but meanwhile, we have to cut back to Dexter standing over Edward and tell him that he knows he looked into the mirror. Edward acknowledges the fact that she is coming for him. Okay, so apparently she's got hard on for Dexter, no worries. He then reveals that he saw a woman in a lab being tortured by a man who wanted a dagger. She should have been killed, but something went wrong. Stop the fucking bus now. What the fuck? Lab? When he said, I saw her in a lab, I was like, I've seen the same visions you have!
I know.
That's like a cave! Lab?
A lab, yeah.
Like, my idea of a lab. Now, fair enough. It's an open-ended word. I guess it's a form of a laboratory in a cave.
Yeah.
But I feel like, make it more obvious then. Like, I was like, a lab!
Have a few test tubes on the wall. Like,
But why could it not just be... Why has it got to be a cave? Why could it not just be a normal laboratory, so to speak?
Because they blew the budget. That's not the film.
You think that would have cost more? No. I was baffled by the lab thing. I was like, did I black out? Jesus. And also, she should have been killed, but something went wrong. I'm like, stop doing this. Start answering the questions. Don't add more. Dexter acknowledges this and explains that what he's seen happened many years ago. The old man was his father, and Dexter is trying to find the location of the lab, claiming that it's the place where it can be stopped. As he goes to leave, Edward asks the big question, why are they doing this? And Dexter claims that the witch wants his daughter. And I was just like, no, you fucking film just had explanation. You explained a little part of it, you answered some of the questions, and I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. And then you followed it all up by going, here's some more.
With more.
Boom!
And more.
And I'm like, wait. Edward's saying the witch wants Dexter. Dexter's saying she wants his daughter. Which is it? This is fucking infuriating. Natalie meets Abner and introduces herself. Inside his house, she gets right to the point, claiming the witch is back, which he takes in his stride and refuses to get involved. He points out the witch can't be resisted and that she will destroy the entire Dexter family. Everyone. Which is it? Just why are you overcomplicating this? Natalie's the target. Easy as that. What are we up to? I lost my place. Oh no, here we go. Natalie shows him a mark on her wrist, which is a sign that the witch is after her, just like her mother. The mark appeared 3 weeks prior and she started to have dreams. Did I miss any of this?
Yep.
You're just saying things now. How could we have not had a scene when Natalie's in bed having visions and dreams of the witch?
Yep.
Maybe she tosses and turns her arms like that and we see the marks. We're like, oh.
This is where I got confused. Yeah, I thought that you had to be stabbed with the blade.
No, it's not the same mark. That's why it's a different mark. It's like
yeah.
It's a mark of the witch. I don't know. They never explain it again.
Because I thought she could only track you if you were infected.
Well, I don't think she's tracking Natalie. I think she's saying Natalie's a target. This is. You're not wrong.
A target for being stabbed and with a knife to be infected.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know what it means. This is a brand new fucking element they've chucked in, and I don't understand it. It's like, where the fuck did this come from? Why have you added this?
I mean, you say that at the start of the film, not near towards the end of the film.
No, we're not halfway. No, we're not halfway.
Yeah.
The problem is, Damon, it's a lot of telling.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell.
Nope.
We could have easily established this earlier on, because I would have told 2 stories at the same time. Had Edward's part with the morgue and all that, but then I've been cutting to Natalie as a different character altogether.
Yeah.
And so, and then telling them both like that. But anyway, Abner reminds her that her grandfather is to blame and his hunting of the witch caused all of this. But the reveal of the dagger apparently changes the subject. He looks at the dagger, claiming that he's immune to witchcraft and crap. And I was like, there we go. That is a sell of the movie. Witchcraft and crap. There you go. Alone in the Dark 2, everyone. As he looks it over, he says that a piece of the heart is missing from inside and wonders about the person it was recently used on. Piece of the heart?
Right, do you mean?
Inside? I'm not, wait, what the fuck is this new nonsense? So I went all the way back to the start. Didn't rewatch it, just scrub back. And then, because I wanted to check something out, because you know the part where at the beginning where they unscrew it and take something out?
Yeah.
You never see and I realised they never show you what's being burned on that paper. It's really hard to see. It's done very flashy. I thought it was liquid. That was it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Because apparently that's what they burn, a piece of the heart.
Yeah.
Why?
A piece of the witch's heart.
Yeah. This will be established later on as well and stuff like that. I didn't get it. But again, it's a brand new thing where it's like, okay, this is almost like losing. I'm lost completely. I am lost completely story-wise. He asks questions about Edward, including if he has found the hag's grave, while Natalie implores him to help, starting to use a connection he has with her grandfather. We then get a random interruption for his wife, played by the great PJ Souls, to moan about a local farmer complaining that his remedy killed his cow. What? This is irrelevant.
Well, she had to get her screen time, didn't she?
I guess you've got PJ Souls. You're like, well, we're going to have her in here. And you can be like, oh, yeah, that's PJ Souls. What do you do? What? Cut now. Completely just cut again to Abner arriving at the Dexter place and looking over Edward. He kicks Dexter out but tells Natalie to stay before opening up a box and telling Edward he will take care of him. He explains to Edward that the witch is immortal because she can switch bodies.
That's new again.
What? What do you mean she can switch bodies? She's immortal because she's smoke. Floating up like... What?
Well, yeah.
What? Before injecting him in the face with something that apparently cancels out his aura and makes him invisible to the other side.
Cool.
Sure. And Edward falls asleep. And I was just like, well, isn't this exciting?
Exactly.
This is Edward Carnaby in bed for a large portion of this movie. As Abner leaves the room, he suggests that Natalie might fancy Edward. And I was like, what? What?
Where did that come from?
She has been in the same room with him for all of 2 minutes. Where? And I was like, no way is this film. Because I didn't really remember this part of the story. I remembered elements of it. I was like, no way is this film doing a love story. No fucking way. Since when? But he also goes off on this weird speech claiming that Edward is an idealist and idealists are dangerous. And I blacked out. I blacked out and missed like half an hour. I actually stopped, paused, and checked to see the scrubbing time to see where like I just collapsed and then missed half a fucking hour of the movie because apparently Natalie likes Edward or fancies him because it must be the affectionate, sexy, right?
Of course, yeah.
And that Abner, who is looked upon, hasn't even spoken barely any words to Edward, now apparently knows the type of person he is.
He knows more than us then.
Fucking hell.
We still don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is, but apparently Abner does. Insane. On his way out, though, it's not over yet, folks. It is not over yet. On his way out, he and Dexter share barbs, and it appears as though Dexter is jealous of how Abner was his father's favourite. All right, fine. There's some motivation. Fine.
Yeah.
Abner expects Dexter to fail and once again refuses to get involved with the cult.
More new stuff.
I don't know. But also, like, haven't you just got yourself involved? Right? I mean, fair enough. And then we get the line of the movie. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, everyone in the world, are you ready for Bill Moseley delivering the worst line I've heard from him ever? You nauseated me then, and you nauseate me now. And I just went... It's everything about that is... He delivers it terribly because he knows how fucking dumb that is. Who would use the word, you sickened me then, and you sicken me now? It's just that same, it's the same fucking term. And it means the same thing, and immediately it's 10 times better because you can put a bit of snark to you sicken. You sicken. But the problem with nauseate is it doesn't quite have the same vibe.
No.
And it doesn't come comfortably out of his mouth. It is embarrassing. I can't believe they do, and I'm surprised they didn't try it a couple of different ways.
I mean, you've also got to question the actors and the actresses why they would. Yeah, but I can't see.
We have seen great. You get payday is a payday.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
a payday is a payday, and you getting money, which in the case of someone like Moseley, I think probably quite short run there, maybe a couple of days, because all your scenes are quite quick, and in the same sort of location.
Yeah, a couple of lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a bit more than a couple. It's got a couple of scenes, but you're not having to do, I mean, like, it's probably pretty straightforward work, and great actors have done terrible movies.
Yeah, of course.
Big ones, people like Leonardo DiCaprio have done terrible shitty movies and lines, and stuff like that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But, fuck me, that line. Before leaving, Abner says that Edward only has a few days left, but a witch might come for him tonight, and he'd rather not be there. And I was like, but I thought you just said she would be... Which is it? Which is it? My God.
It's being made up, but it's like they're changing the law every single...
It just keep adding to it. And it doesn't make any sense, but I will tell you now, folks, we are nearly 40 minutes in. That's it. Yep. You thought we were a lot further in, didn't you?
I know.
But fuck all's happened. That's the problem.
Still, what, an hour left?
It's about an hour left. About an hour left. But thankfully, my notes are a little bit more succinct after this because I started just going, meh. Night is fallen and Edward is up and about, looking all right for the most part. I was a bit like, oh, well, that changed. He looks pretty good.
Recovered, yeah.
He looks around the house, finding the dagger on the shelf, and I was like, put that away somewhere. Who just puts it on the shelf? He picks it up and there's a brief vision of the witch. Boyle tells them off for touching some equipment, something that reads radio waves so they can track the witch as she broadcasts a certain frequency. Why are you explaining it? Just say it tracks paranormal activity.
105.4.
But that's all you need to say, Damon, is just say it tracks paranormal activity, and you know what? I'll go, cool, and I'll accept it. But don't talk about her transmitting on a certain radio frequency. What are you doing, man? I don't need a scientific explanation for paranormal shit. Dexter comes along and says they have some surprises for her. Yeah, really? Because what follows shows that you really had a plan. But Edward feels pain, revealing that the witch is already here. What?
She's here.
Hello! Hello! They activate some switches and as a group lock themselves in an electrified cage with UV light. And I was like, that's the plan! Lock yourself in a cage that's electrified and with UV light. Because immediately, and before anything happened, I went, what's powering that? Because she could probably just switch it off.
Yep, the generator on off.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, presumably she can do that. Edward insists that she's after the dagger. What? I thought she wanted to destroy the family. Which is it, you fucking film? Oh, it's one of these. My throat's going. I'm getting so outraged by this. Immediately now, it's suggested that several of them go out to get it, including Edward, because he can feel her presence. These guys they all deserve to die. You didn't go, okay, so when we lock ourselves in a cage, what we'll also do is bring some food, water, and all this shit that she might want, like a dagger. No, they just left it on the shelf. But they get the dagger, and the lights go out, and the generator stops working. And I was like, oh my god, this is fucking brilliant.
There goes your plan.
And that's it. Also, right, because we haven't really highlighted it, we didn't really, it wasn't worth bitching at the start, because we didn't establish anything, we'll mention it now. Why guns? How could a gun kill this paranormal being? Why do they even bother having guns? What's the point of having guns? Like, why have them? If you know they're useless against a witch, just be like, oh, this is pointless, I'm not going to carry it around. I'm going to add extra weight to my thing.
Yep.
Yeah, these characters will now spend the next 5 minutes of this movie trying to shoot her. Shoot her! As they prepare to defend themselves, the generator kicks in and then cuts out again almost immediately. I was like, what was the point of even having it kick back in? Like, what a waste of a scene.
Body effects, I suppose. But
what effect?
I don't know.
So now they all start showing randomly outside. Cut to nothing happening. Dexter and the Danny Trejo character, I didn't catch his name, head off to fix the generator, handing Edward a dagger. It's his responsibility. So, I am going to mention something that was driving me nuts here. They have rigged up the film, the creators, the director, the lighting crew, all of that. Massive lights outside the house. So when you're inside, you get these lights blasting through the windows. Yep. So we've got this thing. What is that? If light affects the witch, why does that not affect her? What is that?
Maybe it's got to be natural sunlight. I don't know.
Is the moon outside the door? If the moon is that close, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
Good God, that is not natural light.
Studio lights.
But then we get probably another one of my favourite moments of the film where it's now decided Edward tells Natalie, go slow. And she responds to movement. I was like, what the fuck is this? She a T-Rex now?
Yep.
What do you mean go slow? She responds to movement. Where has this come from?
It's new.
They just keep adding stuff. What is this? Go slow, she responds to movement. So what, she got like fucking heat vision? Is it predator vision? What is going on? But what annoys me is we've seen through her eyes. And it's other than just being a bit garbled and shit, like, it's just normal eyes.
Yep.
As Danny Trejo, I'm just using the actor's name, starts to fix the generator, the witch materializes and Dexter is injured. Danny Trejo is killed, and I wrote, sort of? Because the scene here makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't really see what happened, but I'm like, alright, well, he's obviously dead because he's not in the film again.
Yeah, presumably that, yeah.
Meanwhile, the idiots in the cage finally go, alright, we should probably, like, stop staying in this cage like we're a meal. Because that's what you are. You're basically a fucking sardines in a cage. And head out. And this is where, like I said, mentioned as well, the storm that apparently is occurring outside, lightning is going off every 2 seconds.
Yes.
As Natalie is grabbed from behind by Edward, they share a moment. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Who does that? Also, fuck him for the whole, like, shh, don't grab me like that, then you can't if you don't want me to react. But also, like, they're like,
They
you can see her be like, how do they be still my being heart? He grabbed me from behind and scared the shit out of me. No, I love him.
60 minutes of them flirting throughout the entire film, and now they're together finally.
Oh, you're joking. I was going to say, what?
I'm being sarcastic here.
Yes. Also, is no one going to acknowledge that insane light? Because here I think it's worse than ever, coming from the front door. Because I'm like, go stand. I'll be like, hey, Natalie, I have an idea. Let's have our moment. But in that light over there, nice and safe, right? Because they don't ignore it, because they don't acknowledge it, because they don't say what it could be or what it could mean. I'd be like, it's the witch's aura. It's not real light. It's designed to trick you to bring you closer, thinking you're safe, but really you're in a witch's grasp. But because they don't acknowledge it at all, that's why it's just like, it's because of the fucking, they wanted to light the film in a way, and they're making the film look nonsensical because of it. But we have new rules for you to add, because, are you ready for this? Edward now adds a brand new rule, saying you can't use weapons because of the trace of bullet. I was like, I'm about to lose my fucking mind. What the fuck does that mean? The trace of bullet. So, like, she can see where the bullet came from? What?
Trace of bullet, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's another woman. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there was another woman in all these scenes, sort of standing in the background. Hello! I'm here to die in a moment. And she's somewhere in the house shooting at a witch. And I was just like, they still think guns are going to work.
Yep.
What is this nonsense? Meanwhile, with the words, trust me, because, you know, this guy I barely know, Natalie gives up her gun. Now, bear in mind, they think guns work, so there's no reason for her to give it up. But she's like, all right, cool. Also, this guy that apparently is possessed partially by the witch, but can also be controlled by her. Have my gun! I was like, shoot her, Edward. Shoot her square in the face. Shoot her. But what Edward does is he throws it on the floor as the witch arrives. And, right, so first things first. So, the other woman that the witch was just with, she's dead, right?
Yeah.
Would have been nice to see it.
I presume so, yeah.
Presume. Exactly. Witch Vision, by the way, we now get a brand new version of Witch Vision, which we haven't seen at this point. It's just like, and because I'm bringing it back, it's nauseating. I'm bringing it back. It's basically super shaky, out of focus, and blurry.
Yeah.
So maybe that's. I just thought the witch. So like she's pissed. She's proper drunk. Like she's had too many tequilas. She's like, I fucking want me dagger. The witch now proves how useless she is, though, right? By failing to find Edward and Natalie literally hiding around the corner. The witch is here, Edward and Natalie are like here, and like, I'm like, she's acting like a human being. It's like, she's like, the gun, she's like, oh, I heard a noise. And she's like, because she moves like this, like that. And I'm like, they're just there. Like,
but you've forgotten rule 151. She can't. If they stand still, she can't see them.
Right. I also suspected, although I wrote because I wanted to be fair to the movie. Maybe it's because he's holding the dagger. Why the fuck not? Maybe if you hold that, it clugs it. I decided to add my own parts to the movie.
Maybe, yeah.
What difference does it fucking make? So elsewhere, as Dexter is being dragged off by one of the witch's minions, I guess he uses a flare because he's down there trying to keep it going, to keep it at bay before trying to start the gen. I was like, oh, cool, flares. That's alone in the dark. Yeah. Banging. Edward and Natalie now arrive on the other side of the gate, and a hilarious moment, because I was like, what? Dexter sacrifices himself by being dragged off and pulling the motor at the same time. So that's his thing, is he can't get the strength to pull it all the way out. So he's like, I'll let the thing kill me, and it'll pull me with force. And all I wanted to happen was, because he gets pulled with such force, it to snap off. Or not start. No, because there's no guarantee it would, but thankfully it does. And Natalie, in a moment of grey act, is like, no, Daddy! Pretends to care. Why would she? Anyway, enough of that. Cut straight to morning. Done with that.
Yep.
As everyone is sad about his death. And I was like, but what about the other woman and Danny Trejo? Fuck them, right? Like, fuck them. Edward and Boyle stand either side of Natalie and tell her that she will be safe. Her face, she is like, she does not look convinced at all. I'm like, I don't blame you. Like this one attempt in the place they should have been safe in or able to defend themselves, everyone but got killed, but 2 of you, 3 of you, and one of them is infected. Like this is not screaming like good for me.
She's safer, more probably away from them.
Yeah, away from them. Boyle then burns the bodies as the music swells, and I was like, oh, I feel so emotional. Although I can't help think of how much that is going to stink, and they're all going to be left with bits that didn't burn, because that really bugged me. It's not like it's a bonfire.
Exactly.
That's just going to stink, because immediately I wanted a bit like, whose idea was this? Bury the bodies and all that. So right, now I'm going to stop momentarily and talk about something that bugged me like crazy. I haven't done that at this point because I was waiting until he was dead and out of the movie. Dexter, right?
Yep.
That's his name. It's how he's credited on IMDb, right? Mm-hmm. So explain this to me. Why is Natalie's name Natalie Dexter? Why is Ward Dexter his father? Yeah. Elizabeth Dexter. The witch. They're all called Dexter. Their last name is Dexter. So does that mean Dexter's is Dexter? So what I established is that they, for whatever reason, never gave him a first name. Everybody just refers to him as last name. The problem is that's everyone's actual last name. A lot of the characters' actual last name. It confused me so much that I had to, like I said, IMDb just listed it as Dexter. Everyone else listed it as Dexter. In the credits and X-Ray and Amazon, it's Dexter. But everybody else, it's actually the family's last name. Why would you not give him a fucking first name to make that less confusing? Insane, right? But I've been waiting for a chance to say how dumb that was. But it's just another dumb thing about this film.
I didn't even pick up on that at all.
Cut to Abner being visited by the remaining group, with Edward demanding to know where they can get a piece of the witch's heart to activate the dagger. And I was like, did I black out again? How did you know about this part?
I know.
Did I black out? Abner tells them to find a witch's lab, and again refuses to be involved, before telling Natalie that her grandfather worked with a witch, not against. This is involvement. Every time you talk, I'm like, I'm not getting involved, get out.
I'm not getting involved, but...
That's basically, not get involved, but I'll tell you this part, and then I'll tell you this part, and then I'll tell you this part. For reasons to do with the occult, her grandfather sacrificed his own daughter, aka her mother, to the witch. I don't know why. In fact, I don't know what anything in this movie is happening, and I don't think they do either. Nope. Whoever wrote, the writers of this should be ashamed of themselves. No. The Secrets of Eternal Life? That's it, apparently. That's apparently what her grandfather was after, the Secrets of Eternal Life. How he was going to get that, I do not know, but there you go. The witch kept on demanding more and more bodies for more tidbits, though, and Abner reveals that Natalie was promised to the witch years ago. And I was like, what is it? What is it? Edward, the dagger, Natalie, the fucking Dexter family. What is it? The motivations are all over the place. You keep changing them. Just make it Natalie. Make Edward accidentally caught up in this.
Yeah.
But it's Natalie. This isn't fucking hard. A little later, Abner gives Edward a box of everything he kept from that time, but Edward is looking for a specific box, apparently. Edward now starts looking for the contents as Abner starts to pick away at Edward. Meanwhile, Natalie is getting a vibe? I don't know, a vibe? And wandering the halls, but upon seeing a shadow, she hides in the closet as Abner's wife comes in to tidy up. I was like, well, that was pointless. But there's also, she can discover in the closet lots of stuff that suggests Abner may not be telling the truth, including the box that Edward was apparently after. So I was like, oh, we're not doing Abner as a villain, right?
Yeah, bad guy, yeah.
But he's not.
No, I know.
He's not. We're going to find out he's not. So why did he hide?
Because he doesn't want to get involved.
But he's given Edward another box. Stop giving him stuff. Kick him out of your house. You're an American. Get your gun, shove it in his face, out of my house.
You've got all the signs in your doors, though.
Inside this box are trinkets, but most importantly, she finds the dagger and a piece of the heart. How did it... What? Is this a different dagger? Is it a new dagger? They gave it to him, so he then decided to put it away?
Yep.
What? But it was at the Dexter... As Edward works out that the map, using a bit he got from the body to roughly work out where the lab is. I was like, well, that's convenient, isn't it? But I was fine, you know what? Give me conveniences at this stage. Yeah. I want to get somewhere. Natalie puts the piece of heart in the dagger and activates a portal in the closet, I think it was.
Yeah.
A magic ball of light surrounds her and gets the others' attention, but they can't get close to her, though, and Abner claims it's materialising the witch. What?
Yep.
What is this now? Also, it's controlling Natalie to stab herself. What? Happily, she takes ages because she's like...
She has to wait for
to be saved, yeah. And Abner's able to coat his bullets with something, destroy the magic ball around Natalie, and they convince her to throw the knife down. The piece of the heart falls out, and with another of his magic bullets, Abner destroys it, ending this event. I even wanted to read that in a way that was so like I'm reading a eulogy. I'm being really straight and serious about it, but like listen to the nonsense of what I've just said. Bullets coated with magic, shooting a portal, then shooting a piece of the witch's heart. It's so nonsensical.
It just sounds like such a pile of shit too.
But thankfully, I think I'm okay with this because those sort of bullets are very alone in the dark.
Yeah.
But why now?
I know.
And why don't they take more? Can I have some of that stuff that you've used? Because that might actually be useful against the witch bullets of light or magic, you know?
Bullets when they were back in the bloody mansion.
Where were any of this? The mansion?
The mansion? The farmhouse.
Yeah, well, Resident Evil here. Cut to a short time after, because skip, Natalie and Edward and Boyle are leaving to go to the lab. Because I bet you forgot Boyle is still in this film.
Yep.
Amazingly. Apparently they didn't ask Abner any other question, and Natalie now seems a bit off. Obviously.
course.
We're back in Central Park and they arrive at an abandoned building. So we are kind of getting to the end point at least. Inside, they search for an entry point to the lab, ending up deep in the bowels of the building. Edward claims that the others couldn't sense it, hence why they couldn't find it. So up to this point, nobody ever tried to use the infected person in this park.
Of course not. That is him.
They end up below the foundations and Edward finds a sealed up area and claims this is where it is. And I was like, good God, this suddenly got easy.
Yep.
Really easy. As the two men try to pry it open, Natalie finds a handy switch and is able to partially open it. The gap is too small, except for Natalie, who is able to squeeze through. Fine, we're now moving forward. On the other side, she finds a dusty mechanism and is able to activate it, but not enough to get the others through. And I was just like, God almighty. So Edward Carnby is not important in this movie at all.
No.
She is. And I'm fine with that if we establish that early on.
Yeah.
She sets off on her own, finding herself in a cave system while the others try to pry the door open. Yeah, they actually spend ages spending time with these two trying to get this door open. Because it's just, they don't know what to do with them. Mm-hmm. Edward does notice now, though, that the dagger is missing. And we see Natalie took it and is trying to use it as a guide to the lab somehow. Sure, why not? It's just another thing.
Yep.
Who cares? It works. She finds it in a jar with a still beating heart inside it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question in a bit about this heart. She starts to have visions of the witch asking for the dagger and approaches her / the heart in its reality. However, she stops herself and drops the knife. On her knees, she sees a corpse who has a sign around its neck saying, "Don't step on the red buttons." And I was like, what? Huh? She then activates one by accident and the door opens just enough for Edward to squeeze through, but shuts on his foot, trapping him in place. And I was like, what is this nonsense? Like, why are we doing Indiana Jones like trap shit here?
No.
But also, that's not really a trap.
No.
That opens the door slightly,
Yeah.
but then traps Edward anyway, because Edward is fucking useless in this film. Boyle goes off to get the jack from his car as Natalie looks over the corpse. Why not get the jack when you're first trying to pry it open? Outside, darkness is falling and Edward realises that witch is coming. I was like, oh, so she can only come at night now.
Yep.
Which makes sense,
Yeah, makes
but
sense.
maybe establish that earlier on. Natalie rushes back to Edward as Boyle uses his jack to free Edward, but is left on his own to defend himself. Cocking his gun, shooting at the smoke, and dying straight away, apparently. And I was like, oh my God, he learned nothing.
Nope.
He still thought he could shoot. This smoke. It's like, even if I thought I could shoot the witch, I'd be like, well, probably can't shoot smoke. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to do much damage.
I mean, they literally this came from the old geezer's house. Why didn't you ask for some bullets? Let's give me some of your magic bullets, please.
Yes, please. Can I have some of that coated shit? Is it over yet? Unfortunately not, as Edward and Natalie are now together and realise the corpse is Natalie's grandfather. They find another message, one meant for Abner, but it's in code. And I was like, you're just dragging this out now.
Yep.
Why are we going to put this in code? Absurd. But now questions, people. Questions. So he got trapped inside and died, but then decided to write a note and hang it on his neck telling don't touch the red button, but also leave a second note that he wrote in code for Abner. But like, if he was like, don't touch the red buttons because I don't want the door opened, when would Abner ever get... Whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's not the biggest problem I've got here. The witch is having trouble getting inside the lab because the door's closed. What? She's smoke. But we're also going to establish in a moment that there's also an easier way to get in and out of this place. Because Edward finally finds the room from his visions and somehow comes to the conclusion that this is not the witch's grave. And I was like, oh my God, all of this was pointless. All of this was pointless in the end. Absolutely pointless. The plan is now to leave by the sewers, taking the heart and dagger with them, finding a convenient exit in another room that leads out of the park. All while the witch takes her sweet time going after them. I was like, oh my God, how easy was that?
So all that entire time they had literally just the easy...
There was an easier in and out.
So
and fair enough, they didn't know about it until they were inside, but the witch must have known about it. But also, this entire section in this lab is fucking pointless. But I'm also now going to bring up, so this still beating heart. Where are the pieces coming from? The pieces of the witch's heart, where are they coming from? Presumably they've been carved off this heart.
Yeah.
Show us that. Show half a heart.
Yeah, half heart.
Over time, bits have been carved off, so more people have been here. Or earlier on, lots of bits were cut off and then sent out into the world.
It actually make more sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But
As they stagger through the park, Edward has a vision of where they're going and thinks they're being led by the witch. They follow a path via his vision, seeing that Natalie's grandfather may have buried the witch's body in a wall and only the dagger can open it. The witch is nearby though, skulking through the trees as she prepares to cut a piece, as Edward prepares to cut a piece of the heart off. So that's where we established that's what you do now, right? But I laughed my head off because the witch is now doing that thing where she's like, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you, but I'm going to take my time and I'm going to do this behind trees. So stupid. It's too late though as the witch takes over Edward's body and he attacks Natalie. No matter though, her words of encouragement and a big syringe to the heart, because we say that because I'm like, words of encouragement. No, Edward, no. BAM! That'll sort you out. I did at least laugh at that part. That sorts him out. They activate the knife and reveal the body, which the witch now is compelled to rejoin, apparently. And as she comes back to life, Natalie uses the knife on his body and then kills her. And that was how easy it was.
Well, I don't get why she's suddenly compelled to be... I don't understand. Maybe it just said a spell or some fucking whatever.
I would have had this thing. I would have just done this thing and ended the movie here. Mine would have ended the movie here, though. Which is that's all the witch ever really wanted was to be freed from the witchcraft situation. And by bringing a body and doing that, she was always compelled to do evil because of the control that perhaps the grandfather had on her through a spell he'd created when he killed her. By reuniting with a body and then killing her body, and I'd have made it really cheesy. And as she's like stabbed, she goes, Thank you. And it disappears.
What's that? That's fucking pretty scary movie.
Exactly that. And that's it. And then as she disappears, Edward's like, oh, I'm fine. And Natalie looks at him and they both go, throw back their heads to laugh. And then it freezes. We freeze like a fucking sitcom, and we get music going. That's how I would have ended it.
That actually be good ending. Actually,
that would have been more than fine. But unfortunately not. We have to carry on because it's daytime at the Dexter house, and Abner is with them trying to work out what the code is. And I was like, we don't need this.
It's over now.
It's over. He cracks it, revealing that the message isn't to kill the witch, but free the witch, with an added part of kill Natalie. I'm like, no.
Yeah, so...
Outside, Natalie hears something, the others find her seemingly unconscious. It's not Natalie, though, and Abner is shot a few times before the witch tries to get Edward to kill Natalie. He throws the dagger away, though, and as she goes to retrieve it, Edward grabs her by the head and then just dunks her head in a barrel of water. I was at least laughing at this point. He drowns her. Then Abner reveals that Natalie had to die to stop the witch. Why? Where did this come from? I'm fine with the idea of the witch having possessed Natalie and whatever, even though, again, that makes no sense. No. But why, does that kill the witch at all? And you're like, well, okay, that's a pretty dark ending. Yeah. Natalie had to die regardless. But no, because this film doesn't want to stick to fuck all.
Nope.
Edward doesn't give up, figuring if he can revive her, she'll be okay. Because technically I killed her, and now I'm bringing her back to life. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Abner convinces him to use the dagger on her, though. And he does use the dagger on her, stabbing her with it, and Natalie is alive. And I was like, what the fuck is this film? Oh my God, what the fuck is this film? Fine, it's a magical dagger. Fine. But why do we have to do all this to get to this point?
Because we have to have a love scene between these two, or some sort of...
What fucks me off more, she comes around, and it's like she's only been asleep. He just drowned you and then stabbed you. At least look like I've been through a little bit thing. And then she slaps Edward. She's like, oh, don't do that to me. And they share a moment. All while I was like, Abner got shot twice and he's bleeding to death there. And it finally ends with the three of them staggering in the house as we see their dagger glow. And I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Alone in the dark free.
Who cares? We ain't getting alone. You know what, right? The joke is, we might have potential for this to be revisited. So obviously, and this is as of the time of recording...
Done properly. I think done properly, it could be a good film.
Well, as of the time of recording, we are about to get a brand new Alone in the Dark game. A reboot of the franchise, but one that's utilising actors from real stuff. I can't remember his name, but the guy from Stranger Things, the sheriff... in Stranger Things.
Okay, yeah.
He's playing I haven't looked into the game, I don't know much about it, but I know basically he's in it. It looks like him and everything like that. I suspect if this game is quite successful and it revives the franchise, there may be temptation, particularly as you've arguably if you're using these actors in the game, you've then got your actors that you might want to use in a film adaptation. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's likely, and it certainly wouldn't be for years because the game franchise would have to be very successful.
Yeah, exactly,
and I'm not sure people give a shit about Alone in the Dark enough to do it. And who knows, the game could be shit too.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure, but this came out in 2008. It's been a very long time. We've had 2 movies. They've both been equally terrible. Do you know what this needs? This is TV show shit. Animated TV stuff. Where you could really go balls to the wall in it and tell a longer story spread over things still in character development.
You mean something like Castlevania?
Yeah, basically animated like that. But, you know, in a maybe a darker horror sense rather than a fantasy version of it. Either way, if we never see another thing from Alone in the Dark, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
The thing is, I'm not that big of a fan of the game franchise anyway.
Neither am I, yeah.
I played some of the original one more as a nostalgia thing later in the time when they were very dated.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, me, we're talking about really back in the maybe the I don't know 2000s maybe.
So one of the
one and 2 maybe.
But no, they go back to the early 90s.
The original Xbox probably. Yeah, back
that was a reboot.
Oh, okay.
The Xbox 360 had an Alone in the Dark game that was a reboot, a really bad Alone in the Dark game, which has more in line with this, with the lines that you're driving through York City and there's things bursting out of it and all of that. I've played that as well. I've completed that as well. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the original Alone in the Dark goes back to earlier time. The original Alone in the Dark is like an MS-DOS game. And it's like a fixed camera, Resident Evil style, almost like a point and click kind of thing. We just don't have that history with it as we do with other stuff.
I'm sure I played it on the PS2 at some point, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe then you're talking about one of the late entries in the franchise then more than anything else. But, you know, as far as 2 movies go, this has been a rough time. I stand by what I've said. This is marginally better than the original. Even though it makes less sense, at least it has elements of what I believe the game franchise tries to do.
Yeah, for that, then, it has to go above the first one. But story-wise...
Oh, it's shocking. Like, shocking. I will say as well, this is slightly more fun. Because it's so nonsensical that you will have fun almost. Like if you were to drink every time you go, what? You'll be drunk by the time the movie's halfway done. Absolutely wasted. Alone in the Dark 2, what do you reckon? You got any thoughts? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.